Hey folks, Crispy here with another video. Today we're talking about my favorite Linux prompt, Starship, and we have a very simple objective. My prompt here on the left is the default Starship prompt. At the end of this video, you're going to have something that looks like this. So let's get into it. Getting started with Starship. So looking at their website here, you'll see from this example that Starship is interactive with its environment, and it can pick up things from the environment and display them inside of your prompt. So all sorts of useful information that you'd want to see, you would get this from your prompt. So what prerequisites does this have? Well, you'll need a nerd font, and the reason why you'll need a nerd font is because the nerd font will provide all of these different icons that you see at the top here, as well as ligatures and other things that will help Starship look really, really pretty. And you can get them here on the Nerd Fonts website, and you can see that there's many to choose from. So pick the one that works for you and go ahead and use that in your Starship configuration. Next, there'll be a standard installation procedure. You'll see that there's a few ways that are supported for installing Starship, but you can also use the package manager in the system, most likely. You'll just need to check if you can find that package. Next, you'll need to add this line to your bashrc, to your config.fish, or whatever relative startup file works for your particular shell. Mine is fish, so I would have done the starship init fish and then sourced that. But you can follow the instructions for your specific terminal. And once you get that done, you'll probably have something that looks a little bit like this over here. And we'll be looking at our unconfigured version of Starship over here. Modules. So Starship is crazy customizable, and the way it achieves that is by having all of these different modules here you can see on the right that are completely customizable based on your preferences. Then it takes these modules and allows you to arrange them in a particular format. This one here will be the format that is on the left hand side, but you can also configure what is on the right hand side. So this prompt we're looking at here is a combination of all of these different modules here, and the one that's currently displaying is the Python module, because I have a Python file called file.py in my current directory. The character module. So the character module is pretty much this part here, just before you typing out your command, and it should by default change colors based on the status that it gets. You can see this is changing from red to green in the default configuration. So let's take away the default configuration here, and let's add the character module here, and we're going to do our own little special symbol here with some styling. So the syntax here is we put this in square brackets for the thing that we want to style, and in circular brackets the actual style. We're making this bold and white. That's kind of how the styling works. And just before that, I'm going to use the character module. And my character module is going to have the different configuration here. And you can see we have that same kind of syntax here with the square brackets and then the circle brackets after it. So this is the symbol that I want displayed, and I want it to be in bold green when we have success. And in the case that there's an error, I want it to be this X symbol and let it be in bold red. And if I save that and we go back to our prompt here and I hit enter, you'll see it looks a little bit different now. Now let's type false, and then let's type true, and you can see how the configuration follows exactly what I've configured there. Great, so now that we have something that we've started with, let's go ahead and add the Python module. So in the same way, we're going to add this $Python variable, which is going to be a representation of this Python module here. And this is a TOML file, so this square brackets here indicates the start of a section. And here we're creating a format for this particular module that says we want to put the symbol in this place here, and you can see here we've declared that symbol and want it to be in bold green. And there's another variable here that's specific to this module for the Python version, and if we put this one after the other here, you'll see when we go into our prompt now after we save, there is the Python symbol like we specified before, and the Python version that is currently installed, and it's doing this because we have a Python file in our current directory. The OS module. So let's go back into our configuration here, and we're going to put the $OS variable, and then we're going to put in the section for the OS module in its configuration. You'll see I've set disabled to false. There's a style section here which I've set to bold blue, and we set the $symbol here and the $style. And you'll see under os.symbols here, there's also a NixOS symbol here that I've configured, because I use NixOS as my system. So this is the symbol that I'm going to be using for my prompt. Now you might be asking, how do I know what to configure here? You go to the documentation here and it'll mention what you need to configure for every module. You see here it's actually mentioned that this is disabled by default, so I have to set it to false. It tells you the format that gets put here, what the style variable does, and also the symbols and how you can configure what symbols get displayed for the particular operating systems. So if we go back to our prompt here after saving, you'll see now we should have an OS symbol, and I put that space at the beginning because it makes it look a bit better when it's formatted and written out like this to the terminal. The shell module. So we'll follow the same process here, and we'll use this $shell variable, and we'll also add the section for the shell module's configuration. You can see it's also disabled by default, so we make sure it's not disabled. We set the format here, which is an indicator, and then the style. The style is configured here, but the indicator could change based on the shell that you're using. I'm configuring the one for fish indicator because I'm using the fish shell, but you could do this for bash or whatever shell you're using. If we save this and go back to our shell now, you'll see our prompt has changed again. We have a new section that mentions the shell that I'm currently using. If I went to bash, this would be BSH and it would look a bit different, but we'll go back to our fish shell here. If you want that to look different for bash, you would need to configure the bash indicator. I've done minimum configurations just to give you an idea of how to do this, but just remember you can customize every aspect of this prompt to your liking. Username. So let's add another variable as we've been doing before for our username module. You'll see the username has some interesting configuration for the module. I've added this little spaceman here and this $user variable to put the name of our user in that particular section. And you can see it also takes a style variable here. And there's a different style for a normal user, which is bold yellow. And if we go to a root user, it'll be bold red. And this is also set to show always equals true. And if we save that and go back to our prompt here, now we have this next module. So you can see the flow here. We kind of just add something new, configure the module, and then that kind of shows the style depending on what is in the environment. Let's move on to the next one. Local IP. What if you wanted to see what your local IP address is? Well, we could just add this variable here and then add our configuration for our local IP module. You can say SSH only equals false, and this isn't disabled. And then here's the format. We'll put our local IPv4 address in bold purple, followed by this IP icon. And if we save that, now our prompt looks like this. Command duration and write format. So we don't just have to do things on the left hand side, we can also do this write format to put something on the right hand side. And we'll also add the command duration module here with a minimum time of 5 milliseconds, showing the milliseconds set to true, and the format being this stopwatch here, the duration variable, and the style variable. If you don't explicitly set some style for a particular module, it'll use the default style, which we'll see soon. I'm going to save this, and if we go back to our prompt here, and we go and hit ls, we might not see anything yet. Let's run something like find, and let's get all of the MKV files. If you'll do that, you'll see it took me 10 milliseconds to find all of the different files that had the phrase MKV in them. And you can see it's on the right hand side here with the default style. So if you want to know how long your commands take, you can use this module. Making things optional. So looking at our prompt here, it might look like it's done. Close, but we have one problem. If I remove the Python file from our directory here, you'll see I have this blank space now. That's kind of annoying. I don't want to see this blank space every time I don't have a Python file in my directory. So how do we fix this? If we go into our configuration here and we add circular braces around this part in the format, it'll make this optional, which means if it's not defined, it'll just make it an empty string. So if we go back to our prompt now and I hit enter, you'll see now we don't have this wasted space. And if I create another Python file in the directory, it displays as usual. But if we take it away again, we don't have that ugly empty space we had before. And now our prompt is finished. And you can use this optional kind of feature to make sure any module, if it's empty, doesn't display these gaps in your prompt. So here we are with our end result, which is this really nice looking Starship prompt. And we got here by using the built-in formatting, styling, and modules within Starship to get to where we are now, along with some nerd fonts to give us these really cool icons. And I hope this gives you an idea of exactly what you can do, and that there's no reason to have a boring prompt into this day and age. And if you're looking for my next video, you'll find it on the right hand side right about now. Now if you got value out of that, you know which buttons to press. In the meantime, happy hacking, my friends.